Hey guys, and what's up, and welcome back to Saturday's Wrench. Today I'm gonna repaint these assholes.
Welcome to Saturday's Wrench. Yeah. Wrench.
Remember these guys? I painted them with a clear coat, a shiny glossy clear coat, and I don't really like it. It's kind of dulled the finish a little bit, mostly on the front hub. I really don't like it at all. So you can see I've masked it off, and I'm going to repaint it. I've been doing some research on colors, what I want the finish to look like, and I think I decided that I think the hubs will look nice as a black finish. So I bought some shit paint for the hubs. We're going black. I know it's matte, but what I'm going to do is paint it with this and then cover it with the clear coat gloss. So I'm going to get these painted. I won't show you guys this time, but it'll be the same process. It takes about a day and then a week to cure. Hopefully, next time you see this, it'll be black. Oh, paint shit. Crazy Joe, up to his antics. Crazy Joe is fucked. Painting some hubs. Fun times. Okay, so as you can see, I finished painting the hubs. They turned out really nice. They're nice and shiny black here. And I will say something about the paint. I used that Duplicolor wheel paint. That stuff is shit. Don't use that stuff. This is what you want to use right here. This is it's caliper paint. It's for brake calipers, but it's, you know, it's high temperature. You probably don't need that high temperature paint for your wheels, but I mean, there is going to be some heat generating, especially in the back wheel when you brake, but nothing too concerning. But this stuff is just, it was one can. The other one I had to do 2 coats. I had to do the matte black and then I had to put a gloss finish on it. So I was not impressed with it at all. I had to go ahead and use a paint remover to get the paint off the hub, and it was just a nightmare. It took so long, it took an extra couple weeks to do, but this stuff, really good. The VHT caliper paint here, I really liked it. So I think after one light coat, another medium coat, and then a nice thick coat on, just like baked it for an hour in the oven at 200 degrees, and that was fine. That was safe enough to put. I had my bearings in there, and that's still safe enough to put it in there. It's not going to melt anything concerning. So yeah, the VHT paint, caliper paint, really nice. The Duplicolor, I don't really recommend it, especially if you're looking for a more of a glossy look, and I just didn't like the way it finished onto the part. Pretty impressed with this. So now we can go ahead and start lacing these bad boys up. Okay guys, we're going to lace up this wheel. Now, after doing some research online, it's the best just to figure out your game plan before you go and attack this. Wheel building is can be difficult, time consuming, so make sure you do your research before you try this and just learn about your particular bike and the spoke patterns. Now I have some pictures that I'm going to use as a reference, and I've gone online and did my research and I figured out a way how to do this. Now I've gone ahead and ordered these rims from Buchanan's, and they've drilled the holes for me in the appropriate places, and these are going to be really helpful to get your build going properly. They'll have drilled those holes in a very specific way. You'll notice that they're directional, and they'll line up with the spoke pattern. So if you start sensing that something's a little bit awry, then you know you're probably doing it wrong, because the holes will help you guide the spokes very well. Now you'll also notice that I have 2 different piles for my spokes. This is for a very good reason. These are 2 different styles of spokes. One's for the inbound and one's for the outbound. And what that means is you have a spoke that goes in towards the hub and one that goes out. So it switches every hole. It goes in, out, in, out, in, out. So just that's the best way that I can remember it, is that inbound towards the hub, and outbound to the outside of the hub. You're going to notice that you're going to have two different styles of spokes probably. Your application might be different, but for the 350 particularly, there is an inbound and an outbound spoke. You'll tell the difference between the inbound and outbound spoke on most applications by the fact that there'll be more bend in the outbound spoke on the neck here. You'll notice that it'll be more of a severe degree of a turn, of a bend there. And that's mostly because on the outbound spoke, when you put it through going outbound, it needs to clear this little, it has a little bit more material to clear on the hub here. So it really has to reach around and get seated into the rim. So you're going to notice that your outbound spoke is going to have a little bit more of a degree of a bend. So just pay attention to that and make sure you separate your spokes so that you're ready to build this wheel. And after all that's said and done, I'm going to go ahead and start with my inbound spokes. You want to do this on both sides of the hub. Get all your inbound spokes in there, and that's really going to help you out in the long run. You won't be able to get the inbound spokes in if you do it one side at a time. So for my particular application, I'm going to go ahead and put all the inbound spokes in on both sides of the rim. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Your spokes should come with some kind of oil lubrication. Now I've gone ahead of time and just gone through each and every spoke and just got a little bit of oil on the threads, and I've gone through with the nipples also and just put a little bit of oil inside where the threads are here. So I'm going to start with my inbound spokes. Again, these are going to have a little less of a degree of a bend in the neck here, so make sure you just look at it before you do it and make sure that it is in fact the inbound. I've got my lube applied to the threads and my lube applied to the threads in the nipples, and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and start, see, inbound towards the inner part of the hub, and I'm going to work my way around. You want to skip each one. You want to stagger these, so you want to skip one and then do the next one. I'm going to go ahead and do that for the whole side here. Okay, so gone ahead, put all my inbound spokes in. Now I'm just going to go ahead and start getting the nipples in there just so I could secure the spokes. So I'm going to go ahead with the nipples and start lacing it up. Make sure you look at your picture for reference, and for the 350, I know that the spokes on the top here will go in one direction and the spokes on the bottom will counteract that direction. So I've just gone ahead and set it up so that the ones on the top are going in one way and the ones on the bottom are going the other way. Also, on my particular model, the stock application is to put the serial number of the hub on the side where the disc brake is, but I called Buchanan's and they just said it didn't really matter, but I'm going to just go ahead and do it anyways, just since that was a stock way they did it. Like I said before, these holes are drilled in a specific way and they're very directional, so if you just stick a nipple through, you'll notice that it's poking in a certain direction. That's going to be a really good indication of where that spoke is going to be fitting into it. So if you're really confused and you don't know where to start, just kind of put a few nipples through, and you'll start to notice that they'll be starting a little bit of a pattern. Also, something to note is that the holes in the hub here, if you could see it, that they're staggered. They go in, out, in, out, in, out. So for the spokes on the top here that are facing me, I want to make sure that I'm putting them in the holes that are on the top or on the side of that hub that those spokes are coinciding to. You definitely don't want to put a spoke from this side of the hub into the bottom part of the hole. That's definitely not going to even fit. So make sure if you bind these rims and they don't have holes, you want to take them to a really experienced mechanic to get these drilled. So make sure you want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and lightly just start threading these nipples into the spokes just to get them seated a little bit, so the threads just grasp a little bit. So I'll go ahead and do that for all the top ones. I'll flip it over and do the bottom ones. Now I know that from my reference that once I get the first one in, I'm going to go ahead and count 4, and that's going to be my next one. So 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I know it makes a lot of sense too, because this spoke is meeting right up with this nipple here in the direction that the hole was drilled. So I'm pretty confident that that's where that goes. Alright, so that's looking really good. So I got all my inbound spokes in there. Now I can concentrate on my outbound spokes. So these aren't as hard to do. The inbound spokes, they're really important to do first, because you seriously wouldn't be able to get it through and then up into position. So make sure you do those inbound spokes first. Now I can move on and do the outbound spokes. So again, same thing. Make sure you want to lube up these threads. And get them all lubed up prior to sticking them in here. So I'm just going to put another little layer of lube. Make sure the threads are all nice and clean. Apply some lube to all of them. Really just get them all nice, and a generous amount of lube on these bad boys, because it's really just going to help to seat this, get a proper torque on these spokes here when you go to true the wheel, and it's really just going to help it get seated inside that nipple really well, and you won't have any problems. A nice bit of lube there. Just clean off the spoke. These are my outbound spokes now. Again, they have a little bit more of a bend in the neck on the head of the spoke here, about a 95-degree angle, just because it needs a little more space to wrap around the outside of that hub here. So go ahead, start throwing these in. Now this is going to have the same pattern. Once you get the first one, you'll just go 4 more, and then it'll be the next one. Alright, last one here. Put them in. And this wheel's almost finished, so I'm going to go ahead and just add the nipples now, and get this wheel finished up. So I feel pretty happy about this. This is looking really nice. Came together. It wasn't too hard. Just remember, you want to start with the inbound spokes first, then move on to the outbound ones. So I'm going to put this aside and start on the rear wheel now, and we'll get that all built up. Okay, so we're ready for the rear hub here. This is the drive side of the hub. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Again, I have my 2 different styles of spokes. My outbound spokes here, and my inbound spokes here. So again, the inbound spokes are going to have a little less bend on the neck of the spoke here, whereas this one has over a 90-degree bend in the neck. If you're doing this, you want to definitely make sure you check your spokes, and you want to separate your outbound and inbound spokes. But I'm going to start with my inbound spokes and get them in on both sides. Also, what is interesting to note about the hubs is, if you have a wear pattern in your hub, just check for like it may be like a little indentation in the hub somewhere. So look for that, and then that'll tell you if, see, I can see one right here. I'm not sure if you can see that there, but there's a little indent from where the spoke was before I painted the hub. So I know that this will be my inbound one, because I can tell that was an outbound spoke. So I'll just try and keep the same pattern as before, and put these back together the same way that they were before I took it apart. So I found my little indent, and now I'm just gonna skip that one and go for all my inbound spokes. Again, just look for the wear pattern, the old wear pattern, and you could tell which one's the inbound and which one's the outbound. So I see a little indentation here from this spoke, so I know that this is the inbound slot right here. I've got all my spokes in place, and I've just set them up in the direction that they're gonna go, bottom and top. And I just decided to start on this side because there's just a little bit too much height when you flip it over on the other side, and the wheel is just sitting too far down away from it. So I'm gonna start on this side, the drive side, and again, just to start off, what I'm gonna do is just stick a nipple through one of the holes here from the top holes here, again, because you want to use the top holes here to correspond with the top spokes, and the bottom holes on the rim will correspond with the spokes on the bottom of the hub here. So I'm going to stick my first one through. And again, you could do this by, if you could clearly see the indents in the hub from where the old spokes were, this will give you a really good idea of where the first one will start. So I can't see the indent from the bottom here, so I'm just going to go ahead and just try and deduce where the spoke should lie. Basically, I'm just sticking my nipple through, and that's directional hole, and that's going to point me in the direction of one of these spokes. So I'm just basically going to find the first one. I know basically I can tell that it's this spoke here will fit into this nipple here, because if I take the spoke and just turn it little, like, you know, all the holes are directional. So I know that it doesn't fit in this hole because that nipple is pointing in a completely different way. It wouldn't even fit. This hole, it looks like it might fit, but there's not enough of an angle on the spoke for it to fit into that hole. So, you know, common sense is telling me that this is probably going to be the spoke for this hole, this particular hole here. From the first one, basically all you have to do is count 4 holes, and you know you got the second location. So I'm going to go ahead, start getting all these spokes into their nipples so I can get this situated. Then I'll flip it over and do the other side. And just make sure you're mindful of the direction that the spokes are going. You can tell the ones on the bottom are going in that direction, so I want to make sure that I go in the opposite direction with these spokes on top here. Okay, awesome. This is all looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and get my outbound spokes in now. Okay, sweet. So I got all my outbound spokes on this side, on the drive side here. So I'm going to go ahead and start nippling these up, and now I can tell from the wear pattern that I know exactly where these go, but these ones will be really easy to figure out which hole they go, because there will only be pretty much one option when you look at the way the spoke is coming off out of the hub here, and it'll only really match up to one hole. So I already see it here, so I'm just going to go ahead and start getting all of my nipples in throughout the whole wheel. So that's looking pretty sweet. Done the outbound spokes for this side. I'm going to flip it over and do the outbound spokes for the other side. Looks like everything's in place. All the spokes are here, and just double check your pattern. Everything looks pretty cool to me. It's really neat to see this finally start coming together. Instead of staring at a box of parts, you're actually looking at your wheel here. So pretty cool to see this come together. Just double check to make sure you have everything ready, and I feel pretty good about this. Everything looks nice. Everything seems to be in place, and I think this is ready to take to the mechanics to get trued up. Alright, so I feel pretty good about having all those finished. Wheel building can be a little bit complicated, so again, just make sure you do your research when you're building your wheel. Make sure you're doing the job to your specifications. So it feels really good to have all that finished. Now I can drop these wheels off at the wheel builder, and he's going to true the wheels for me. So I'm going to get an experienced mechanic to help me out with that. I personally don't have the setup here in my garage to go ahead and start truing these wheels. So I think it'll be best if I take it to an experienced mechanic to get him to really just make sure that everything is buttoned up properly on the wheel. A lot of safety issues with motorcycle wheels, so you definitely want to make sure that you do it properly. Also, a little update on the engine. I have an appointment with a really experienced auto mechanic who's going to help me put this engine back together properly. So I'm really excited doing that in December. So hopefully we'll have that. I'm going to shoot and film the whole thing. He's agreed to let me come into his shop and film the whole process. So we'll have the whole process filmed. I'll have that update for you guys really soon. So I'm really excited to get that engine together. The bike's coming together really nicely. Everything's going really well. The wheels are getting built. The engine's coming up. The electrical situation is getting sorted out. Everything's coming together. So we'll be back with another episode of Saturday's Wrench. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe. Don't forget to thumbs up. And I'll see you guys in another episode real soon.
Wrenching it up. Gonna wrench it up. Yeah. Wrenchity-roo. Wrench-roo.